Okay, welcome divas and dudes to Powerhouse Bakery. So nice to have you on this rainy day. It's so fresh, right? To have rain finally. I feel like we've just been missing it, and I just started my compost pile and we did some burning, and so now we blended them together and magic is ready to happen. I can't wait. And I don't know if I told you, but a couple years ago we did this exact thing by accident and we had 75 pumpkins grow. It was the most amazing. Yes, pure by accident. Compost and ashes, from burning some cedar, and it was the most beautiful thing. And we didn't have pumpkins that we knew of in that pile. We do now, so I'm going to see if I can actually grow them again. But it's so beautiful how nature just takes care of us, right? We get beautiful rain, and then we get beautiful vegetables, and that fuels our body. So today what I want to really talk about is kind of finish up our topic of vitamins. Of course, there's so many great things to discuss. I'm not going to do it justice, and I hope that we'll get to visit it again and even go in a little bit more depth. My goal today is to help you see the value of the fat-soluble vitamins and the water-soluble vitamins, and how important it is to eat the whole food so that our body gets so many benefits to all the layers. So let's do a little bit of a review. If you guys didn't get this little flyer, I'll make sure I get you one, but it was really from last week. And one of the things that I wanted to just do as a review is talk about the fat soluble and the water soluble. So we know that fat soluble means that we need fat in order to digest and absorb that nutrient. So fat soluble is vitamins A, D, E, and K. I spelled that wrong. I knew that looked funny. Fat. I'm like having a brain. Soluble, right? Soluble. Yeah, it is right. It just looks so weird. Soluble. That just looks so weird. So vitamins A, D, E, and K. And a few times before, we talked about vitamin D. And what's so interesting is that all of these nutrients come to us in two different ways. If we decided that we wanted to eat all plants, we're going to take out some of the active forms of receiving these nutrients because they're in fat. We even talked about vitamin K. This is a really cool one. We know that now there's even a variation called vitamin K2. And what's cool is with these fat-soluble vitamins, the animal will eat the vegetables, including us, and our bodies can digest and absorb and convert into the active form. And so even if you decided to eat all plants, if everything goes correctly in our bodies will turn it into the active form, right? So vitamin D, we talked a little bit about it being the sunshine vitamin. We talked about getting out in the sun a little bit without sunscreen. And I know that seems like so danger. But a little bit of sun is really valuable for the converting of the inactive form of the vitamin D into the active form. So it happens at our skin, and then of course we can take in an active form of vitamin D. Where do we get that? Things like eggs, fatty meat, fatty fish, fatty animal product. So we can eat the animal that has the converted form, or we can eat the vegetable that has the unconverted form. So we talked a little bit about mushrooms. If they've been activated by UV light, and that is a source of vitamin D that then our body can convert into the active form. So it's really cool. Vitamin K is similar. If we eat the leafy green vegetables, we get vitamin K. If we get high fat foods like pork, sausage, and that sometimes I feel like I'm going to cringe at telling people to eat pork, but I didn't say the nitrate rich pork, right? So we can still think of ways to go from good to great by how we pick our animal product. Of course, fatty fish. Remember we talked about salmon being kind of the darling of all of these fat-soluble vitamins. Love that. And I tell you what, after doing this research, I've been eating more eggs because it helps us to get those fat-soluble vitamins. So same thing with vitamin A, which we're going to talk about today. Vitamin E. And so again, with the converted form of vitamin K2, which we're learning has so many neat things happening in the research world, not only with cancer treatment, but understanding how important it is in helping our bones be strong. For example, we talked a little bit about how the vitamin D cascade happens. Our body gets a trigger that we need more calcium in our bones. And if we eat calcium too much, or we don't have enough vitamin D, that system breaks down and the calcium is going to hang out in the wrong areas, right? Yes, we know that all too well, right, Paula? Kidney stones, calcification in our arteries. So we think of arteriosclerosis as being a hardening or a stiffening of the arteries. Some of that could be exacerbated by that event of calcium and D going into the wrong soft tissues and staying there. Vitamin K actually helps that process move along. We don't want the calcium to stay in our arteries. We want it to go into our bones. And so it takes a lot of special function to really allow that to happen. And so I love the fact that the fat-soluble vitamins we can eat in the active form and really do a great job at getting our needs met. And Elaine had a good question. She said, how do we actually get all these needs met? How do we do that? And so that's what I wanted to talk about today and really understand what a day will look like with our fat-soluble vitamins and getting enough. The other review, just a quick little cover, is on the water-soluble vitamins. And so again, in this little handout, I talked about the water-soluble vitamins would be examples like the B vitamins. They don't hang around in our bloodstream for very long. They don't get stored in our fat cells. And so the way nature has made it is the vitamin A that's stored in the fat, we get a very small amount of that when we eat plants. Not very much of it gets converted. The water-soluble vitamins we can have in its active form and eat a lot of them, and we don't have a risk of getting too much because again, we can pee out the extra. And so in the Western world where we do supplements, we can get a supplement and be pretty safe that we're not going to overdo it on a water-soluble vitamin like the B vitamins. I had suggested if you're going to take a B vitamin, it's probably a better idea to get a complex. So have the technology of a supplement have all the ratios for you, because in some of those B vitamins we need microgram amounts, and in some of them we need milligram amounts, which is exponentially different. And so trying to supplement one or two on your own is risky. So if you're not under the care of a doctor that's really doing lab work and helping you follow your success of supplementing, I don't recommend that you supplement ongoing for the fat soluble or the water soluble, but it's really more risky to supplement ongoing for the fat soluble, and for the water soluble doing one or two of those in high doses like niacin. So now what we want to do is look at vitamin C a little bit more. And when I brought out my beautiful plate of veggies, what I want us to do is sort of take a survey. I want you to help me decide which of these beautiful items I have is going to have vitamin A or vitamin C, and it's going to have a lot or a little, okay? So let's start with the kiwi. What nutrient is definitely a lot, right? A lot of C, you're absolutely right. And one of the funnest ways to eat this is you've got to get it a little softer than this. So you buy them, let them sit on your counter for a day or two, and then scoop it out with a spoon. Yes, right? Vitamin C, very high in a kiwi. So you're going to get your day's worth of vitamin C in a kiwi plus something that's bright green. Who would have thought bright green is also going to have a source of vitamin C? So I love that. How about in peppers? Vitamin C as well as beta carotene. So what's really cool about the vitamin A category is that while we don't have the active form, we have the retinol, which is the active form we can get, and then the pre-vitamin A is going to come in peppers and all of these beautiful bright colors. Here's one that I absolutely love to recommend, and this is what? Butternut. Yes, butternut squash. I have one cooking right now, and on this beautiful rainy day, having some butternut soup or just mashed butternut, great way to get your pre-vitamin A. Bright reds and bright oranges and yellows are so fantastic for getting the precursor of vitamin A. So all of the bright colors we're going to get in for C and for A. So reds, yellows, orange. So gone are the days that we say, well, you have to eat orange juice to get enough vitamin C, and as well as the bright color, it's going to give us that beautiful precursor of A. So we get all of these beautiful colors that are going to give us the precursor. Now, if I look at this little plate, eggs and butter and even avocado, we've learned a lot about these when we looked at fat solubles, right? So the egg yolk, of course, butter, and even some avocado, what nutrient is going to be rich in those? Not vitamin C. Yeah, vitamin A, and this active form. So that's where the key is, that when we talk about eating lots of fruits and vegetables, we're going to get the precursors of the fat solubles. If we want to make sure we're getting some active form, we're going to use the plant version. So get the retinols, egg yolk, butter, even the avocado is going to give you a little bit, which I love. Not very much, but some. And of course the fatty fish and the meats. So I think that's the key, is when we start looking at the beautiful antioxidant vitamins. We think of antioxidants as being the bright colors and of course the green leafies, yellow, orange. All of those are going to give us the antioxidants. What do I mean by antioxidant? Anti is against, oxidation is breakdown. So whenever our cells are going through our daily activities of breathing and creating energy, remember we talked about the B vitamins are so key for allowing energy to be created in every cell. So whenever we have energy in our cell, sometimes the sun, oxygen, environment, even stress, all of these external factors are going to cause oxidation. So it's going to be breakdown in our cell that's so important to form energy. So we talked about the B vitamins, really important to make this energy work so that our cells can function. But if we have life going on, this is going to break down, right? So this is going to break down. So while we have B vitamins that are helping this happen, we also need to have vitamins and nutrients that are going to protect this cell from the oxidation. So they're antioxidants. So when we talk about antioxidants, vitamin A, vitamin D, sure, vitamin C. Can you think of any other terms? The oxidation is anti. So we're going to stop the breakdown of the cell with the nutrients that we eat. So antioxidants are going to be those bright colors. Now, what's even cooler is getting a wide variety of fruits and vegetables and getting the active form of the fat soluble vitamins are going to give us a double whammy, because now we can get the antioxidants that are going to really protect that protect our cells from breakdown. So vitamins A, D, E, K are fat soluble. Okay, and of course they're going to come from animals. The precursors are going to be beta carotene, and can you think of any of the phytonutrients? We've talked a lot about those really cool terms. What is the fun term of the antioxidant in tomatoes? Lycopene. Yes, so that's another antioxidant. And really what happens is our body has to convert the lycopene into the antioxidant form that our cell can use. So that's really key. Now, some people have difficulty doing the digestion and the absorption. So let's talk a little bit about when deficiencies occur. And again, this kind of popped up in our last discussion because for sure we had some challenges when people had GI upset. So does anybody know somebody that has a vitamin A deficiency? No, it's very rare. Same thing with vitamin C. In fact, most studies out there have really shown us that mega doses of vitamin C do not help fight off infection. And we think, well, how can that be? So it really begs the issue, why do we supplement if it's not really helping us? There's more to the story. So deficiency is going to be rare. And the idea is that our body is really good at absorbing. And the problems that could occur with deficiency is if there's a problem with absorption. So we have to absorb the vitamin, and then we have to convert the vitamin. Just like we talked about with vitamin D, sunshine vitamin, right? If we put sunscreen on, it's going to prevent the conversion of the inactive form to the active form. Same thing with vitamin A. We can eat copious amounts of these beautiful vegetables, bright colors, eating lots of kale, and we get maybe 4% of that beautiful beta carotene that we've actually eaten. Will it actually get absorbed and then converted? So that worries us, right? How can that possibly be? And yet, when I think about Elaine's question, we don't see a deficiency very often. So the beautiful thing is our bodies are doing a pretty good job of it. Do we need to have a supplement is always the question. There are vitamin additions to lots of foods. Can you think of a food that you might purchase that would help you prevent the deficiency? Fortified cereals, vitamin A and D added to milk, right? Then we think, well, who drinks milk anymore? So the reality is we definitely want to understand where our nutrients are coming from and how do we improve the absorption and the conversion. So again, at Powerhouse Bakery, we do so much for folks that have GI upset. If they have Crohn's disease or celiac, or you've taken antibiotics for a long time, that's going to affect the absorption. When we think about eating the food, so we eat this beautiful cabbage, so a cruciferous vegetable loaded with vitamin A as well as vitamin C. It even has a little bit of B vitamins, but for sure those antioxidants, A and C. We first have to masticate, so chew, get it into smaller parts. It's going to go into our stomach. What happens in the stomach? We have very acidic environment that turns on the bile. Anybody know someone that takes antacids? Yes, if you have heartburn, that actually reduces the acid in your stomach, and it makes it difficult to get the bile activated. And we need the bile in order to be able to digest and absorb the fats and, of course, the antioxidants in the veggies. So we feel like there's so many potential insults in getting the right nutrients really absorbed and converted. So what's the answer? For sure, we want a wide variety of foods. So we definitely want to get color. We want to get some cooked as well as some raw. Why do I say that? The cooking process helps to activate nutrients so that we can absorb them easier. So now we think of eating this beautiful melon, and we are going to chew, masticate. We're going to bring it into the stomach. We have the very strong pH, so very acidic environment, turns on the bile. the food goes into the small intestine, and because of the help of the bile, now we can get better absorption. So we want a wide variety of colors and textures. Here's another interesting fact. When we cut some of the vegetables and fruits and leave them on the counter just for maybe an hour, we'll say, some of the breakdown of those beautiful antioxidants happen. But another thing happens, which is good, and that is that it makes it easier to digest and absorb. We actually get an anti-cancer benefit from some of the enzyme systems that are really creating the oxidation that happens on the surface. So we've got kiwi, we've got lemons, oranges. This all falls into what category? Citrus. Yes. So citrus are going to be the king for vitamin C. And we know that. We know that citrus is great. And do we have any difficulty absorbing citrus? So the nice thing is vitamin C is water soluble. So unlike the vitamin A, vitamin C, cooking and even freezing is going to break down the vitamin C, and our absorption is going to be really poor, right? So if we have age, so if it sits greater than, I think it was 24 hours on the counter, it loses 50% of the vitamin C. Of course, cooking, same thing, and freezing. How do you think canning falls into this? Much worse. Yeah, because canning now, it's usually in a salt solution, which pulls the nutrients out of the vegetable or the fruit even more. So the water-soluble nutrients are a little more delicate. If they sit, they lose their nutrients. If we cook them, they lose their nutrients. And freezing isn't quite as bad as sitting on the counter and cooking, because what can we do there? We can hold in the nutrients. So here's a great little factoid. If you're going to eat frozen blueberries, which I do recommend, eat them before they thaw. So now the nutrients are really held in place. So what are you saying, Suzanne? I've got to eat frozen blueberries. Well, you can cook with them. The idea is you don't want them to thaw before you use them. Versus a fresh kiwi, if you slice and leave it on the counter for a very short time, so within an hour, the antioxidant chemicals, the enzyme systems actually make it a little more easy to digest. But the freezing is great because it will lock in the nutrients right from the time they've been picked, washed, perhaps blanched, not in the case of the blueberries, but in the case of, say, spinach or broccoli. And the majority of the nutrients is really held in place. So nutrients held in place. Nutrients are up. Yeah, so the refrigerator is somewhere in the middle. That's a really great question. So in the refrigerator, we're going to say the temperature is less than or equal to 40 degrees. And so it's slowing down the enzymatic reaction. And so it's another great example, if you ever watched my tea video, and we learned that when the tea leaves are crushed, it helps to activate an enzyme on the edges of the tea that increase the phytochemicals of the tea. So that's the same idea here, that the cutting activates the phytochemicals so that you get a better digestion and absorption. And so really the refrigerator and the freezer is helping to hold everything in place as long as we can, and then we're going to masticate, and then we're going to be able to digest and absorb more. So the takeaway is getting as many fresh fruits and veggies as you can. You know, the leafy greens, I love this. I always get fresh spinach instead of the baby spinach because the mature leaves have so many more nutrients. Who would have thought? But it's because it's had more time on the vine to really build that antioxidant power. So it's rich in vitamin K, and that's vitamin K1. It's the precursor of vitamin A, beta carotene, and it's got plenty of vitamin C. So it's a win-win. How would we go about eating this so we'll get the most nutrients? Anybody want to guess? You could do raw. Yeah. And really the nice thing is, even if you did a quick cook So benefit of having some raw and some fresh really come to light, because light cooking now is going to break down some of the enzymes to make your body's accessibility that much easier. So it makes it easier to absorb with very light cooking. Now, what if I put it in water and let it sit there? Or I boiled it, like way maybe our moms used to do, especially like the greens, like collard greens, right? So unfortunately, that will leach out a lot of the nutrients because it's sitting in the water. So when we think of the most effective way to get the nutrients of the water-soluble vitamins, we want a variety. We want some raw. The longer on the vine also gives us great value rather than the baby. And we want to fresh cut, fresh eat, quick cooking without water if you can. So steaming isn't really sitting in the water, so that breaks it down just enough to help with the digestion and the absorption. And then what's nice about freezing is quite often the veggies are blanched, so they're washed, blanched, and frozen. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. I read one study that said broccoli, when it's frozen, keeps up to 90% of its nutrients. So broccoli frozen is one of those that's really awesome for maintaining its nutrients. And yes, ma'am, Paula.
Sorry. So like the bird's eye, the broccoli where it comes in the steam bag.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good, or is steaming it?
Seems to be.
Like, but it is in the microwave.
Well, and I mean,
I'm not anti-microwave.
so your question is the bird's eye product good because it's the frozen broccoli and you steam it in the bag? There's going to be some questions about whether it's good to steam in a bag because the bag might have some leaching of the chemicals. So if you're concerned about that, take it out of the bag and put it in your steamer. The thing we do here is we do a broccoli cheddar bake, and we take it out of the freezer and we put it with our cheese and our chicken, and voila, that's the meal, because we know it's already been slightly cooked. So that would be a way you could do it. If it's going to be soft enough for you, just go from freezer to plate and heat it with your dish. You could go freezer into your skillet and do a quick stir fry. That would, be the least amount of processing possible. So I kind of like that idea. But honestly, I think buying the frozen broccoli, cooking it in whatever form, is probably a win because you're most likely to eat it if it's handy. If you buy fresh, and it sits in your refrigerator, now we have the risk of it losing some of its water-soluble vitamins, right? And now you've still got to cook it. So, you got the layers where you could lose the nutrients. So I think frozen broccoli is a great one. What about frozen spinach? Would that be a good way to go? And I guess my hunch is not as good as getting it fresh because it's a really delicate leaf. So going through the freezing process, it does lose more. And most of the research does substantiate that frozen spinach loses up to, I think it's 72% of its beta carotene and its vitamin C. So again, the precursors to the fat-soluble vitamin A is in all the veggies, and it's somewhat delicate. And that's why people that are vegan might have difficulty getting all their nutrients met with leafy greens. Now, again, most people that are vegan, if they're really eating plenty of this beautiful array of colors, can do okay. And that's because their gut is healthy. So that's where I always want to go back. The win-win of eating real foods versus a pill or a shake is that we get to fuel our gut. And so getting really healthy nutrients into our gut, not only for the vitamin absorption itself, but to help that biome, so that if we have healthy villi, we know that it's going to be able to absorb the nutrients better. And so that's the part I think is so great about eating a greater plant-based diet. And maybe if you're not going to be very rigid and, for religious reasons, not eating any animal, you could bring in eggs and butter. Who doesn't love a little butter on their toast? And then you get the preformed vitamin A. So then it's that much easier to absorb. So now I want to go through some recipes that I think you'll love with all these beautiful fruits and vegetables. Because really when I ventured into this topic, what I wanted you to take away is not so much the science. I mean, I love that part, but I wanted you to see the application. So, how do we create a day that's going to help meet our needs? And I love that, Elaine, you asked that question because I think it's a real good one. And our country is still convinced in many ways that we should supplement. If you go into YouTube and follow YouTubers on nutrients, they're always trying to sell a supplement. In fact, one recommended that you should supplement bile, you should take some bile, right, to help with the absorption. And I thought, surely there's a better way. If you've had your gallbladder removed, your if you've had your gallbladder removed, yes, there's a risk that your absorption will be compromised. How do we fix that? So don't despair. How do you fix that? You eat a smaller amount because your body can survive without a gallbladder, right? Your what's that?
More fiber. I had mine removed, so it's like.
So when you get fiber, both soluble and insoluble, the reality is this is just another word for all that. Lots of fresh, some lightly steamed vegetables. I don't want you to go down the aisle and get a fiber supplement thinking that that's going to help your gut biome, especially if you don't have your gallbladder. So when your gallbladder is taken out, that means that you don't have that little squeeze of the digestive enzymes that really help to get the process going. Remember, your stomach is very strong acid, and that stimulates the process of getting the bile and the digestive juices. So if you don't have that, you're still getting some bile. It's just taking a little more time. And again, our bodies are so good at adjusting. So you still can digest if you have a gallbladder removed. So gallbladder is necessary, but it's not invaluable. Well, a little bit, because again, with the foods that we eat, after it gets masticated, mixed in with the stomach, and a little bit of the juices, then it goes right to the hepatic portal system. It goes to your liver and gets packaged. So all of those organs are important. So yes, if you have a clogged liver, your digestion is compromised. But the way we fix that is eating as many of these colors as you can. It helps to get the fatty deposits out of the liver, and we call that, again, fiber, but what we really mean is all these bright colors. And so again, I want to create the day for you, but I think it's a really good question that you bring up, is that if the gallbladder has been removed, how does that affect you? And the good news is it doesn't affect you too much. Yes, you want to decrease the size of your meals. You want to gradually increase the fat content of your meals, but you can do fine without a gallbladder. Thank goodness. Yeah, great questions. So let's create this day. And again, our goal is to get a well-rounded mix of our fat-soluble and our water-soluble vitamins. We want a mix of some raw veggies, some cooked veggies. We want some higher fat meats and fish, of course the nuts and seeds. So, when we go to your best foods list, that's where I want to apply it to your day. Okay, so let's start with, what should we have the first thing that we eat or drink in the morning? I'm going to suggest some coffee. Yay!
Water.
What's that?
Water.
Even better, water and coffee.
Water first, then coffee.
Yeah, I know. I think that's fantastic. Water first, then coffee. Yes. In fact, when I work with clients and their goal is weight loss or helping their biome, I do have them do 12 ounces of water the first thing and then their coffee.
So with a little lemon in that water.
Oh my gosh, you guys are so good. I
vitamin
love
C.
it. With lemon. See, I knew you guys would come up with it. And we could even, instead of the coffee, could do what?
I do tea.
Yes, exactly. Green tea. I love it. And what could we put in our green tea? Of course, we could put some lemon. We could put some mint. We could put some orange. Every time you get a slice of one of these beautiful, oops, there goes my kiwi. A slice counts. And so gone are the days where we say you have to have your orange juice in the morning for your vitamin C. Instead, a slice in your water or your tea is a great way to get some vitamin C.
So
Yes, I love it, like chamomile tea. So the question is, do herbal teas count? And of course they do. So herbal teas are great because they're using the flower that has all of the antioxidants of that plant. So whether you're eating a flowering plant like cabbage, because we know that this is really part of the foliage, and the flower will come from the foliage, and that's where the nutrients are. So the antioxidants, the vitamin K, loaded in this. And then when we dry the leaves and make a tea out of it, you're still getting loads of those nutrients. Just like with the creation of the green teas or white teas and the herbs, the process of drying it out, crushing the leaves, helps to really activate those nutrients. So the enzyme systems are so powerful that when you dry it, you're locking it in. So yeah, we haven't even gotten past our first beverage, and look at this, we already have so many items. And so I always say too, wait till you get hungry. Don't eat just because it's time. Instead, wait till your body cues give you the urge to say, now it's time to eat. That's so powerful for the health of your gut, because now you have a natural process of emptying and stretching when you get some food, and then let it empty, because that process is so healing for the endothelial lining. So now we get hungry. So with the modified fast, what it really told Americans was that, wow, I actually feel better when my gut is not always full. I actually feel more energetic. I feel healthier when I don't eat. And that was so counterintuitive, I think, to people, because we are in a world where we have so much to enjoy, so much to purchase, so much to eat, and who needs to be hungry? And so the modified fast kind of event or trend really helped people see that not eating helped them feel really good. And so again, that's so healthy for the gut, to let there be a cycle of eating and not eating. So get hungry. And then the next thing we want to do is now refuel. I'm not in favor of refueling without sugars, okay, without carbohydrates. So what kind of carbohydrates should we have as our first meal of the day? I don't mean to say sugars as in something that's white and powdery, right? Right? It's like, oh, darn. No, I knew you knew that. And here we're in the middle of a bakery, and I serve donuts and cinnamon rolls and muffins, but they really have the cloak of something like a treat. But when you look inside, they're loaded with complex carbohydrates, healthy fats, and fiber. So after you get hungry, after you've had your first beverages, now we're going to eat. And we want to break the fast. Right? Break the fast. And we want to break the fast with lots of colors. Now, unfortunately, the American diet has kind of predetermined what breakfast foods are. Right? What are breakfast foods? Cereal, toast, pancakes, sometimes eggs and bacon, waffles. And we get so used to those food choices, it seems really weird when we start looking at these. Oh, no, we don't eat those at breakfast.
But you can do, like, say, an apple and peanut
Of
butter.
course you can, yes. And so thinking outside the box just really highlights where could we put color. Now, of course, you guys are experts at this, so you know you could easily make an omelet. You could make apple with peanut butter. I actually love lentil patties, and so I make lentils in the morning, and then I have all the greens and goodies that go with it. You could make a wrap, and you could add arugula and tomato and spinach. And you think, oh, Suzanne, I don't have time for that. That's too much work. I need to grab and go. And so when you get in the habit of having those foods handy, whether they're on the counter or they're in your fridge, holding at 40 degrees or in the freezer, it's really a mindset. You just get used to having these foods handy for you. So let's go more traditional though. Let's start with breaking the fast with our carbohydrates and do oatmeal. My pen is not wanting to work. Lindsay, can you get me another pen, please? My pen wants to die. Oatmeal. So this is more traditional, I think, because I'm leaving it open too long as I'm chatting. Traditional is oatmeal, right? We can kind of all live with that. What can we put in the oatmeal because there's the carbohydrate. It's going to be rich in the B vitamins. Yes. Berries, walnuts, cinnamon. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Did you find another one for me? Thank you so much.
How about honey? Is that too?
Yes, I love that, Paula.
Okay for sugar?
Because remember, we learned that honey is a prebiotic. So again, our mindset is not unilateral. It's not how do I get enough vitamin A and vitamin C. It's well-rounded. How do I now feed my gut prebiotics and probiotics and vitamins? Because we know that absorption of vitamin A is determined by how healthy my gut is. So now we have these multiple layers that we think about when we're creating our meal. So yeah, we could do oatmeal with berries. We could do nuts. We could do butter. Woohoo! Put some butter in there. Butter is back. Yes, I'm telling you, every time I do these classes, I'm thinking, oh yay, I'm going to add a little butter in there. Because it does give us a great source of nutrients. Now let's back up a little. If the butter comes from a cow that eats really healthy alfalfa, is the fat soluble nutrients going to be in his butter? Of course, her butter. But yeah, so of course we want the animal to be healthy. Sometimes though, you'll hear experts say you have to buy grass-fed butter, grass-fed cows. Well, not really. I don't want you to get in those weeds. I want you to think of the animals that we are using for their dairy are going to be fed well enough to get good quality vitamin D in their butter and vitamin A in their butter. So I say that because so often on YouTube you see the advertisements for grass-fed, and of course it's very expensive. And then ghee is another one where it's really concentrated fats, and it has to be from grass-fed cows. And I want to hold back on that a little bit because again, without this beautiful rain, there's not a whole lot of wild grasses. So farmers are probably feeding alfalfa or other healthy grasses to their cows. So there's a great way to do an oatmeal with all kinds of things added. So let's now give you one more example of a breakfast before we go to the rest of the day that's a little more unusual. Say you don't like eggs, or you don't like maybe the oatmeal. What could we do that'd be a little different? How about butternut squash? I think butternut squash is so cool. It's so versatile. So you can roast it and slice it. I put a little bit of drizzle of honey on this. I put some cinnamon on here. You can put it in your toaster oven and grill it and slice and eat it. You can even eat the skin for a little extra fiber. So good. And we're so lucky that HEB has butternut squash pretty much all year round. So it's fantastic. What about acorn squash? Yeah, acorn squash right out of the oven. You're going to try it in just a minute. But I love the fact that this gives us the sugars, remember, because I don't want you to break the fast without carbohydrates. Right now, the whole diet world, sometimes you'll hear people recommending a keto breakfast, bacon and eggs, or put butter in your coffee. I mean, if you like butter in your coffee, go for it. But I prefer butter on my toast. But don't put the butter in your coffee thinking that it has some kind of special secret power. It doesn't. Drink your coffee or your tea however you like it. Get your butter wherever you would like it too. So butter on butternut is pretty yummy. Okay? So I'm trying to sort of squash some of the myths out there and know that when it comes down to it, what we want to do is eat whole foods that have a variety of antioxidants that are in their pre-active form, like the bright colors, and their active form, like the butter and the eggs. Okay?
I have another question, like another sweetener like the agave, is that better versus like say honey?
It's a great question. Is agave better than honey? No.
No, okay.
I'm convinced that honey is pretty much the perfect sweetener. When you think about how it has been around, and it is absolutely the fabric.
So better than using like tea versus?
Yes, better than agave. Now, agave is far and above better than white sugar because it has a little bit more fiber in it. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question. Okay, you mentioned about the butternut squash, but what would I put with it?
Yeah, so what would you put with a butternut squash? So, number one, get hungry. Number two, find something that sounds intriguing and yummy, so a little outside the box. you could have 3 or 4 slices of that and be good with it. If you wanted to pair it with something, remember that our bodies are so good at holding on to food several hours. So even when we are trying to eat balanced proteins from animal products, or not the essential amino acids, you don't have to have them all in one meal. So to answer your question, you could eat it plain. You could add some pesto to it. You could add some cinnamon and honey. You could add some butter. To add another food to it, or you could add some chopped pistachios. You could have a yogurt. So if we are to combine the butternut and try to make a complete, well-balanced meal, I think that's where you're going. Let's do that. So we're going to add maybe 2 tablespoons of nuts. What's the nuts going to provide me? Some essential fats, some minerals, some protein, and some fiber. And on the butternut squash, we're going to do a little bit of butter. And what if you still wanted something else to eat? You had maybe 1 or 2 slices, you had 2 tablespoons, you had maybe a teaspoon of butter. Well, who says you couldn't add an egg? Hard-boiled egg. Hard-boiled egg. Or you could have a lentil patty, or you could have a little bowl of maybe some sorghum that you cooked with herbs and olive oil. So thinking outside the box allows just ultimate freedom. And really, your point was so good, Elaine. How do we get enough nutrients? Well, we start in the morning and we think outside the box. We start adding bright colors. Heck, you could even have a bowl of berries, blueberries. And here's another way to get servings of our fat-soluble and our water-soluble by the nuts, the butter, the blueberries, and the butternut. Question?
So I have a question, because I guess, we're always been programmed, you gotta have like a protein, a veggie, and a starch. So okay, so with this day that we're creating, how many calories? Because I know with a portion control is like a big thing. Like you said, you can just eat that plain,
Yeah.
and you feel like, okay, well, am I getting enough?
And that's so great. So am I getting enough? That's the whole name of our topic. And so the reality is our absorption is going to be improved with the health of our gut, and the absorption is improved when we don't get mega doses. When we get mega doses, our body's not going to absorb it anyway. So really, I love the thought of dialing back from being too consumed with, am I getting my 44 milligrams on this meal? Instead, getting a wide variety. So you asked about, are we getting the protein, the carbohydrate, and the starch? Let's do this. We can count the nuts as our protein, even though butternut has protein. So we're going to count as our protein, our veggie, our color, and our starch. So protein, fat, complex carbs, which would sort of be as our bright colors, and our vegetable and our starch, because the butternut is a complex carbohydrate. Does that help? So really thinking outside the box and not feeling like you're caged into, well, I need my protein, I need my veggie, and I need my starch. What we really want is we want something bright blue, bright yellow, browns, so the nuts and the butters, which are going to be those vitamin A and vitamin D and all those minerals. So that's so applicable. Okay, so we made it through breakfast, and I have 5 more minutes, so I'll go fast. We made it through breakfast, and hopefully your body is in a natural elimination pattern. So meaning that you eliminate in a natural cycle. Try to train your body to do that in the morning. So when you get up and you have your water, you have a little bit of caffeine, which let's all agree that caffeine helps stimulate the smooth intestine, which helps normal peristalsis to be a little more active to eliminate from the large intestine. And you've now brought in all kinds of great fluids. So water-soluble veggies gives us even more important contents of the lumen of our large intestine to be able to eliminate easy, smoothly, well-formed, no problems, flush it bye-bye. Right? Questions on that? Really valuable. So again, it's not so much as a pill. I don't feel that the pills are going to help get the lumen of the GI tract healthy. Now, if you have a deficiency, that's different. If you have malabsorption, that's different. But we always work towards the ideal, which is easy to absorb and easy to eliminate. And that means that your gut is probably doing better. Okay, so now let's go to lunch. We had breakfast, we eliminated, and we've done some work. So again, wellness is about good intellectual stimulation, good social, of course, environmental. You want to feel like you have purpose, and all that's happened before lunch. Hopefully. So now, what should we make for lunch? We could have, remember what food sort of became the darling of the vitamin world? Salmon, right? Salmon. Anybody not like salmon? No, I don't like salmon, says Paula.
No, but I've always heard it's how it's prepared, it's how it's cooked.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the type, yeah.
Yes. Type, how it's cooked. I so agree with you guys. So let me tell you my way of cooking salmon. In fact, Jose promised me she was going to give you the recipe that I wanted to share with you. When you cook salmon, whether or not you marinate it or not, start it at a high temperature. So start your fillet.
We got a salmon recipe.
You did? Okay, wonderful. I wasn't sure if she gave it to you.
So I've been looking at it.
Yay! Okay, good. Start at 425, so hot temperature for about 3 minutes. 3 to 4. And then turn it down. Now, again, 3 minutes isn't very long, and I promise you that salmon cooks fast, even if you have a fairly fat piece. So I always want you to peek at it. 3 to 4 minutes, high temperature, turn down to maybe 300 degrees for maybe another 4 minutes. Not very long, so a total of 7 minutes, get it out of the oven. Wrap it in some foil and sit it on the counter. Let it finish cooking there. If you felt like your oven wasn't hot enough, you could let it sit in the oven, even with it off. So the key here is fast cooking, high temperature, low temperature, rest. So high temperature, low temperature, and rest. Let it finish cooking out of the oven. You can cover it with some foil if you want, and just let it rest, because then it slowly finishes cooking, and it should look not bright white on the inside. If it's white and very flaky, you probably overcooked it. You want it to be almost soft, juicy, gelatinous, and then it'll taste so good. When people say salmon has a fishy flavor, it's because they've overcooked it. Or, it can be that it's a bad one too. So when you pick it up from the store, cook it within 1 to 2 days, wash it, dry it, because sometimes there's bacteria on the skin. So wash it, dry it, and then cook it this way. I promise you'll have a whole new love for salmon. So let's have salmon for lunch. What should we serve with it?
Mediterranean rice.
Yes, Mediterranean rice. Woohoo! Did anybody cook that one that I gave you, that recipe?
I want to, but I have a question. So
Okay, we'll get it to you. We'll get the question. So salmon plus rice. And how about some sauteed cabbage? I want to show you guys how to make chow chow. If you haven't watched my video on that, please do, because it's so good. So good. It's basically fermented, but bright colors are so beautiful. So here's our beautiful red, and we've got our Mediterranean rice. So there's our white. What other color do we want to add? Since we got our red, we could do brown. The rice is kind of brown. I'm going to buy some new pens. I'm so sorry. Purple, I love that. And I'm thinking green. And yes, broccoli, spinach. You could even add your beautiful melon. So this would be orange. I'm going to cut this. It was so pretty at the store. I couldn't wait to get it and share it with you guys. $5 for a melon. It better be good, right? So bright colors. Now, what I'd also recommend is buy the extra large fillet of salmon. It's much cheaper to get the large one, and I promise you, yes, you will use it. Cook it all at once, or not, but I like to cook it all at once. Keep it rare, so medium rare, and then reinvent it with a salad. So now you don't even have to cook it again. Your house isn't going to ever get fishy because you didn't overcook it to begin with, right? Take it off the skin, store it in the fridge, and now you can pull it out and reinvent it as a salad. And that's when you can add your mango to the salad. You got your bright yellow. You've got some greens here, so spinach.
Is that more of a dinner recipe? To me, that looks more like dinner.
I know, it seems like a lot. But I guess your last meal of the day shouldn't really be really heavy anyway, right?
And that's the thing. So the Mediterranean eating style is to have this kind of food. Now, it doesn't mean you have to go through a lot of cooking. What I recommend is cook this for dinner and have leftovers for lunch. Even if you're working during the day, it's so nice. Get a little Tupperware, and we're going to serve you guys some pizza in a second, so you'll have our little to-go container. Have some leftovers, because leftover salmon is divine. Even just for my husband and I always get 2 pounds, which sounds like a horrendous amount, but we have some for breakfast. We can eat it for lunch as a leftover. We can have it as an afternoon snack. So gone are the days that I have to have a snack food because I've got some leftover meat from the dinner. And so, of course, if we wanted to do a more traditional lunch, where'd my little towel go? What would a traditional lunch look like?
Chicken salad.
Chicken salad? So how is salmon salad different than chicken salad? You still had to cook that chicken, right? It's all in our mind. It's all kind of what we're used to. What about tuna? Tuna salad. Yes, you still have to open the can, drain it, mix it, chop all those vegetables. Oh, that's too much for lunch. And then you don't have it because you're not going to make that for dinner, right? So rethinking what our lunch and dinner can look like changes what's in your fridge. And so, when you buy a fruit or a veggie and it's not quite ripe, put it on the counter, let it sit and get ripe. Potatoes are so high in vitamin C. Those don't have to get ripe. So now you can plan out your grocery list. Have some items that are going to sit on your counter and you're going to really watch. See when they get ripe. Don't put them in the fridge. Just let them sit out there. Let that enzyme system on the outside help to make it more digestible, whether it be a cut kiwi or a beautiful tomato that's uncut. And also layer what you have in the freezer. So having 2 veggies in the freezer that you can pull out anytime are excellent because that's a way to preserve the nutrients. So now let's do a dinner. We're gonna get out our frozen broccoli and we're gonna saute it up with maybe some chicken tenders because we're gonna throw them right into the skillet. And we got our little broccoli florets and we're gonna cook it in a little olive oil, or we could do some ghee or butter, but olive oil is really nice because it's such an even, well-rounded cooking medium. So, but of course, butter is fine if you want to use it. And how are we going to do that? We're going to heat up the skillet to medium high, do mise en place, which means while that skillet is heating up, you're going to get your olive oil out, you're going to get your chicken tenders out, and your broccoli from the freezer. Don't let it thaw. We're going to put it right in so that it's going to cook quickly. Okay, and then it'll just take a few minutes to saute. Once your skillet's hot, put in the broccoli first because that's going to take the longest to cook. And then put your chicken tenders in. You could cut them into chunks. And what other great antioxidants should we include? Garlic. Yes. It's funny because garlic is touted as such an amazing antioxidant. And little did we know, it has vitamin C in it. So I love the fact that we know garlic's healthy, but we don't really think of it as being a source of vitamins. But vitamin is this term. You have a question?
Yeah, it just confused me that the broccoli takes longer to cook versus.
If you get frozen. Yeah, if you take it right from the
'Cause
freezer.
I'm just thinking that it still should have like a little snap to it. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
but remember your chicken tenders cook really fast too. This whole meal should be done in about 8 minutes.
Oh.
Yes, and so, my Meals in Minutes class tells you how to layer this so that you get a really hot skillet. You put in this could be fresh, chopped. You could do fresh, but I was saying frozen because if you plan your week out, you want at least 2 vegetables in your freezer that you can grab and pop into a skillet. And I promise you, this could still be a lunch. If you're at home, a work at home day, everything should be done in about 8 minutes. Okay? So the fun thing is getting your vitamins, whether they're fat soluble or water soluble, come from our beautiful array of bright colors. And we can also get the preformed versions in some of the foods that we can bring in and still be part of a really healthy diet. So eggs, fatty fish. If you've never eaten sardines, now's the time to try it. Of course, butter. You'll hear a lot about vitamin D coming into liver. I don't recommend you run out and eat liver, but if you are one that loves liver, all the power to you. But just know that you can get the preformed or the precursor of those fat-soluble vitamins all in those beautiful bright colors. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you coming to Powerhouse Bakery. Yes.